Shit. The question I wanted to explore today was, do you need to live in another country to learn another language? Okay, the answer may be counterintuitive, no, but I wanted to add some nuance to that. So I've learned two languages to a pretty decent level from home, English and French, and I'm currently learning another language while living in the country, so I have some insights that I wanted to share. So today I'm going to attempt to debunk the myth of go abroad to study another language. And I also wanted to share some practical approaches to learn a language, whether you're doing it from the country or from your couch. So let's begin. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of this myth because I think it helps us get some more context. So yes, before you had to travel to get out of your country in order to speak a language, and you were probably a merchant, an immigrant, or just a powerful leader that needed to negotiate and make politics and so on. The only way you could learn a language by yourself is through tough books. I'm still not sure how priests or intellectual people really learn from just reading. That's insane to me. But you know, in general, there was a need. There was a real need to learn this language. It had a specific purpose. So, you know, I get where this myth comes from, but now in the globalized and technological society we live, it's just not the case anymore. Two main things have happened. You can engineer a foreign environment at home. And second of all, you can leave your country without ever leaving your culture or language. So that's why we have people that can become fluent from their couches by just pure immersion, movies, films, books, whatever. And other people that have been living for decades in another country, but they don't speak a word. Now, I'm not going to judge this in this video, at least. And what I'm trying to get at with this historical point of view is that what once was a necessity, now it's not a requirement. So the real question is, what should we do about this? I would like to make a differentiation between the people that are living in the country and the people that just want to learn it from home. But for both cases, now that there is not a need, there has to be a want. There has to be a desire. Now, I have to tell you, as someone who's living in the country and learning the language, if it wasn't for the courses I'm taking, I don't think I could learn a lot of language just by pure absorption. So yeah, it's true that you have a bit more exposure. For example, if you're taking the public transport and you're not using your headphones, you're going to be more exposed to the language, and that exposure is something that you don't get back home. Okay, I get it. And yes, you can practice a bit the language with some daily interactions, but that's just so repetitive, and it's not going to expand your vocabulary. You're always asked the same things. Do you want a receipt? Do you want a bag? Are you paying by cash or card? And maybe you're gonna get familiar with the numbers. Okay, I have to say this, this, and that. How are you? Some products, okay, bread, milk, whatever, and whatnot. But you're not really learning the language. You cannot express yourself, you cannot understand deeper conversation, and that's kind of what you want to achieve if you're also looking for connection, which is my personal goal when I'm learning a language, but you know, it might differ from yours. So, you know, my advice for someone who's living in the country and actually wants to learn the language would be to take up a course. Learn the basics, go through the basics with a teacher, with someone that knows, especially if it's a hard language and it's very distant from yours. Because, okay, if you're Italian and you want to learn Spanish, if you're Spanish, you want to learn Italian, that you can, you know, shortcut your way through. But for me, Hungarian was just challenging, and I don't think I could have I know that I could not have made the progress that I made without any help whatsoever. So yeah, once you get the basics, start progressively overloading your vocabulary. I think you guys know already that I'm someone that really loves this concept of progressive overload. I think it comes from exercise. Like, you know, you do your training with some lightweight, and then you keep adding incrementally onto that. And what I mean by this is that, okay, so let's say instead of saying card, You know, they ask you, you want to pay by card or cash? You say the whole sentence. I want to pay by card, please. They ask you, how are you doing? Instead of saying, I'm good, you could say, I'm feeling a little sad, but overall I'm good and I'm excited to have dinner with you. I don't know, something like that. Just progressively work your way through and try to introduce as much language as you can even in the smallest interaction that you have. And another thing that you can do is just look up events. Go to Facebook, or I think Facebook is a good place to just like see what events are taking place. And now you have the opportunity that you're living in the country, so you have to get, use these opportunities. This is something that you don't get at home. You don't get to listen to a free presentation in a bar about, I don't know, Hungarian culture or AI or I don't know, random. I went once to an open presentation to a university, and it was about metaphysics and values. Where do values come from? Things like this, like you have to be active. That's the thing. You have to be active. You have to be curious. Even if I didn't understand anything, I wanted to push myself. Okay, how much can I understand? How much can I speak to someone? Can I go to these bars, to these events, and then start up a conversation with someone? I know this depends on what kind of person you are. I'm a little bit more extroverted, I guess. Think about the fact that you now have the opportunity to do this. You go to the streets, you can add up more conversations. Sometimes I try to not use my headphones and try to see if if someone's up for a conversation. I would just go to some parks. Sometimes there are old people there and they're pretty, they're talkative. They're just chilling and they want to talk to you. So I had a very, how could I say this? Like I had a lot of political clashes with different people that I've talked to, but it was a beautiful conversation and a very respectful one. And, things like this. These are things that I could not do at home just because in the terms of learning a language, okay? Not in terms of like I can go to the park and speak to older people in whatever country I want to, but, So the message here is to try to not get into your subculture, into this bubble of, especially I see it with the Spanish community here or Spanish speaking community. They have this bubble of, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful community and I feel so grateful that I can enjoy it. But I'm just thinking, the other day I met a guy that he's been living here for 15 years. He cannot say any word and he had multiple relationships with different Hungarian people, and I'm like, be a little bit more curious, try to make up some phrases, try to get out of your comfort zone. But at the end of the day, this is just a personal opinion and everyone can do whatever they want. And now if you're not living in the country, if you don't have this opportunity, you would definitely need this thing called the immersion bubble. You've probably heard of it. It's basically designing your environment in a way that exposure to that language becomes just part of your daily life. And I guess people have a sense of what this means, but I feel like there's something missing. I don't know how, I know how to explain it. I'm going to explain it. So, when people in general, they tell me I'm a little stuck at my language, I don't know how to improve, and I kind of ask, okay, like, what are you doing? What's your daily life look like? Well, I have one class per week, and I sometimes try to listen to the radio, but I don't know, it doesn't stick. And I'm like, okay. First of all, one class per week. If your only source of learning is that class, I don't think it's gonna work. One class per week is just nothing, especially if you're in the beginning phase. Maybe if you're in an advanced level and you just wanna maintain that level, one class per week is perfect. But beginner, intermediate, I don't know. So I see that people understand generally that, I have to listen more, to read more, to do this, and they kind of force their way through. And one of the things that I realized is that a lot of my learning depends on the research I do. A lot of my immersion bubbles depend on the research of resources. So when I start learning a language and I really want to make it part of my daily life, I look for everything, like YouTube channels, podcasts. I literally spend hours just figuring out what podcasts are my vibe and what YouTubes are my vibe and what not. So I think this is also an exercise of self-reflection. What type of consumer are you? What type of person are you? What do you usually look on YouTube, on, I don't know, podcast? Because now with the experience that I kind of have, I know exactly what I'm looking for. If I hear a podcast, I see a YouTube channel, there's something going on that I'm like, I like this personality, I like this voice, I like the way these people use their language, they're very articulate, I can understand it very well. And I feel like that's what people don't have, and that's what's often overlooked. It's not like when I was 13, 14, I learned English because I wanted to learn English per se, but it was because I was so interested in the things that were in English that I had to learn English in order to understand these things. So that's what you have to work on. What do you like? Okay, say you're really into fitness. Just look for things that you would look in your native language, but in your target language. And try to go from there. Maybe sometimes it's gonna be a little bit harder. So listen to things at 0.75 and try to get used to not understanding everything, but understanding the gist of it. And with time, it will just get easier. What you don't wanna do is dread your way through the process. I don't wanna listen to the radio, that's so boring. 80% of radio is just very boring to me. So I want to look for something that's adapted to my personality, to my vibe, to, you know, there are different resources, a lot of people speaking in different ways and using different vocabulary. So just look for what suits you. Because to be honest, it's the second year that I work as a tutor. And the first sessions that I have with different people are just trying to get to know them. Who are you? What are your interests? What kind of conversations can we have that's gonna spark your curiosity? And I love seeing how people, you know, how I sometimes match. I feel like my job really is to match resources with people. And then from that on, it's just my work, it's easier. And you know, to some extent, I think it's also a matter of time. Like, I do not know how much time and how many hours I spent when I was a teenager with English. I would just really devour shows and movies, and they talk to my friends about it. And I don't think that having someone to talk to is necessarily a requirement, because I did my C2, I think in 2023, and that was way before I had someone to talk to. Like, I've been having like English speaking friends since, yeah, for 1.5 years. And I guess what helped me was just talking a lot to myself and reading out loud, trying to mimic the things that I was listening. And to be honest, I had a huge motivation because, okay, I'm gonna tell you a secret, but just between us. When I was a child, you know how you have a secret dream when you're a child? Like, of course, I wanted to be a vet when I was a child, but in reality, my secret dream was to become an actress. So in my mind, it was like, oh, if I want to become an actress, I have to go to Hollywood and I have to speak the language perfectly. So I remember just watching Friends or American Horror Story, what was it, Teen Wolf and all this shit. I'm like, wow, when I was 14, 15, I was something, let me tell you. And I remember just stopping the shows and repeating what the other person said and then try to say it at the same time. And then I realized, I understood that that's called shadowing. I didn't even know it. And I was just very committed to it. I was just like, going to be this, I have to speak like them. In order to be an actress, you have to have a perfect pronunciation and a perfect accent. That dream is long dead, but you know, I love that it helped me. My delusion really helped me get to this point where I can really express myself and understand a lot of complex topics that I'm exposed to almost every day. So just as a summary, we've debunked a little bit this myth. You don't have to leave your country to learn the language. You don't even have to leave your room for that matter. And then we've gone through some of the practical approaches you can integrate into your life in order to truly learn the language that you're either passionate about or just curious about. And I guess the conclusion is to just try to find different channels of input that really suit you. You don't want to dread yourself through the learning. You actually want to enjoy the learning. That was it. I hope this helped you somehow. I hope you can help someone, and I will see you in the next one.